The Nancy Guthrie case, a case that has garnered worldwide attention. If you if you don't know about it, one may assume that you have, in a way, had your head hiding up underneath a rock. But in case you didn't know, she is currently missing, and today marks 2 weeks from the date that she was first reported missing, which was February the 1st, sometime after 2 a.m. And it is currently believed that Miss Guthrie was taken from her home near Tucson in Pima County, which is Arizona, against her will, um, after having returned home sometime prior from being with her family, out on a evening of dinner and games and fun with one of her daughters and her son-in-law and her grandchildren, and no doubt, perhaps some other people, reportedly. I specifically chose this photo here intentionally. Why, you may ask? I chose it because whenever her name is mentioned or the case is mentioned, they always, and they would be the media, they always mention her name only in connection with Savannah Guthrie, who is uh, in the middle of the photo with the black sweater on. Now, Savannah is a high profile individual, a reporter, a longtime reporter for the Today Show, which is on the NBC network. Now, that could be by design, you know, why they as to why they mentioned her, right? In connection with her daughter Savannah, but I just felt it befitting to acknowledge all three of Miss Guthrie's offspring. As you can see, she has three. Her and her late husband created three, excuse me, three children. So not just Savannah, but three. Now, over the course of these past 2 weeks, a lot has been reported. We have been inundated with a lot of information from a variety of media sources, major networks, and this including social media. And it would appear in some ways um, as though social media tends to be a little bit more expedient or more efficient, in getting the work, or not the work, but the word out, or the latest updates pertaining to this case. But perhaps in some ways they are working in tandem with mainstream media. I'm sorry. There's been, I believe, as of today, there's been at least three ransom letters, supposed ransom letters that have been received by uh, some local media affiliates, and then TMZ, if there hasn't been any more at this time. Now, as it currently stands, none of those ransom letters, I believe, have been authenticated or verified, to actually be from the individual or the individuals who took Miss Guthrie from her home. Now, today, the latest reports states that a glove that was randomly found on a roadway near Miss Guthrie's house. It was recovered, I believe, over the weekend. It was recovered and then sent off to see if they could pull any DNA from it and then compare it to, I think, a glove that was found inside Miss Guthrie's home, reportedly. And so supposedly, there's a high chance that DNA recovered from it matches the DNA for the glove that was found in Miss Guthrie's home, but we'll have to continue to, just kind of follow reports and see what's actually accurate, because this is an ongoing investigation and it seems to be turning daily. So you got to keep your ears open for that. But my purposes for just kind of commenting on this was not really about the case itself, because there's so many reports out about this and so many people talking about it, and it's sparking a lot of conversation, and understandably. um but my focus was on uh capitalizing. I wonder, to a degree, if people, in a way, who are involved in reporting and maybe are saying that they concern, there's a host of people encamped outside of this lady's residence, if in some way there is not an element of capitalizing in here, which is a concern of mine. And I guess one may argue that, what, that's a risk, or that's an element that does come, to situations like this automatically. And that, yes, I could see that point, that could be true. But it's still, for me, as someone who's watching this, it's bothersome to some degree, concerning to some degree, because you really wonder how genuine people really are as it pertains to their concern about this situation. Um, this lady here, she has a family, as we see here. Now these are her three children, but then it goes beyond that, right? The offspring and the generation, and we cannot um, we cannot really fathom the trauma that these three here and beyond have experienced, are experiencing, and will experience, no doubt, the remainder of their human life. Um, I was telling somebody, I was talking about this. I said, if they find Mrs. Guthrie, if they find her, and I hope that they do. I hope that she is returned to her family, that she's returned to her home. If this is what manifests, uh, she nor her family will ever be the same. And that could be said, if it swings the other way. They will never be the same. I don't believe that they will ever see people the same in some facet. If their mother is returned in good health and she's okay, can you just imagine um, the anxiety that they would have about uh, leaving her presence, as I would, and as I imagine anybody else would. I would feel the same way. I would be nervous. I would have anxiety through the roof. I would not want to leave my mother's side. Um, I would probably be at the point, because of the fear and the trauma and the experience, to where I could not fathom functioning or doing anything outside of her. This is really how dire and traumatic this is for this family. And so my hope really in making a comment today is to say that I just hope, with all of the reporting, there's YouTubers, people on YouTube such as myself, who are reporting or following the story. I'm not following it, not on YouTube in depth like that, or I should say commenting on it. But there are people who are commenting on it all across social media platforms, X, YouTube, probably TikTok, perhaps, some of the other platforms. Excuse me. And then, of course, there's mainstream media where it's being reported. And then, as we see in the footage, we see all of the people, media, and things like that, who are camped outside of this woman's residence. Not only that, but it's almost as though her residence is becoming, to a degree. Now, keep in mind that right now her home is a crime scene. It is an investigation, but there are people, some people who you can see them. They're coming by and they're doing poses and taking selfies and taking pictures in front of her home, as though this is an attraction, as though this unfortunate situation, is some form of a tourist attraction. And I really, really, I take issue with that, just as a human being, because to me, I see that as a form of capitalizing on this situation. It's very unfortunate, and I hope that we, as people who are watching this play out, you know, um, we have the benefit, of the freedom of the press and reporters, to where situations like this that impact us as human beings, as Americans, and then beyond that, we have the fortune of having the press to be able to bring these things to us in real time, including social media. But I just hope that as the days have passed, and as time continues to go by, um, that we don't become numb or desensitized to what really is going on here, what we're looking at. We are chronicling the abduction of an 84-year-old woman. Her life, um, as she knows it to be, was interrupted without her permission. The life of her children, as seen here, and her family, was interrupted without their permission. And we can't lose sight of that. We can't let all this other stuff, some of it is becoming like a circus, in my opinion. We can't let all of this kind of like sidebar stuff, um, take us away from the real focus, which is in finding this lady, and who done it. Who has her? Where is she? where is she at? And that's really pretty much all I really wanted to come and say about this on today. And I would really be interested in hearing your take on it as a viewer, because you are watching just like I am. You're watching this play out, and you have some degree of interest in it. I like to know if you uh, feel like in some way people are capitalizing off of this tragedy, off of this family's you know uh misfortune, and this situation that's going on currently for them. With that said, if you know anything, if you've seen anything, if you've heard anything that you feel like could be beneficial in the investigation of this case, we are being directed to call 1-800 call FBI. That's 1-800 CALL FBI for missing persons. Let's continue to pray for the Guthrie family. Uh, let's continue to hold out hope for her return, and never lose sight of what's really at stake here, and what's really important, and what the main thing really is. And that is that Miss Guthrie be found safe and return home safely to her family and reunited.